we back again, ladies and gentlemen, and not to mention it's giving you nothing short of awesome. It is the Sauce Wrestling Show, and as you can see, all four of us are back. I am a co-host, Noah G, back with all of the favorite things to do with wrestling. With me, as always, from No DQ, the wrestling thesaurus himself from No DQ, Noah Foster. Also to my left, my compadre, my client, the man who I represented in the backyard wrestling scene, and my A1 since the day one, Jack Attack, aka JDP. And ladies and gentlemen, making his triumphant return. We've been waiting too long to hear this man's voice on this show, and thankfully he's back with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave no further ado. The hoss with the sauce, Pete Moss.
I am on fire right now, Noah G. Sure.
Oh my.
My Bengals are getting obliterated. My
As they
fantasy team is doing a cup of coffee better. And two weeks ago, my Reds got obliterated from the playoffs with 0 hits. But hey, it's all good because we are here to get deep into everyone's favorite collar and elbow conference call. But there is one sad thing we do need to talk about from this week, if you don't mind me talking about it.
Sure.
We'll get into
the stuff. We'll get into everything later really quick. Pete, what you got?
We lost someone this past week, not from the world of pro wrestling. Unfortunately, an icon from the world of rock and roll passed away, Mr. Eddie Van Halen.
God damn.
Dude, that one hit me hard.
Yeah.
And I got to say, anybody who knows anything about music knows that man is a legend. And I know he is performing some venues. That's the greatest venue in the world or outside of the world. Up in the sky.
Beyond this world.
Yeah.
He's in a better place, thank God. But without any further ado, rest in peace to the late great Eddie Van Halen. I was able to, and my parents raised me on rock and roll music, so listening to him play Eruption, and then You Really Got Me, just a guitar solo. That man is basically synonymous and basically like the greatest at guitar solos. I mean, watching him play Eruption for 10 minutes straight is just chef's kiss.
You can only imagine the impact that had on him. You can only imagine the impact that Chris Jericho felt when this happened too. We all know the great hits. Jump's one of my favorites. Panama, Dreams, Right Now, Unchained, Main Street, etc. So rest in peace.
Hearing Dreams at the end of the Power Rangers movie was one of the highlights of my childhood, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But people shit on that Power Rangers movie because they think Ivan.
For reasons.
Because they think
we're trying to see it as more than what it was supposed to be.
Right. Anywho, let's not soak too long in sadness, gentlemen. We got some interesting things to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to get right into our first segment, and this is what we call the hot sauce of the week. Each of us is going to get the opportunity to talk about the one thing from their representative show. We're going to start with Mr. Foster. Sir, you have AEW Dynamite. From this week, we had an interesting episode. You get 5 minutes to discuss what impressed you so much about this week. Go right ahead, my friend.
Let me talk to you, because AEW Dynamite once again fulfilled me with hype and excitement. My God, that dog collar match was fucking incredible. You had 2 people and a third partner in this ring, the dog collar chain, that came in full effect for everything. From the rip-off of the apron to the cutter, to the massive power bombs they lay in the chain, to the crazy finish. And I love the fact that the Nightmare Family and the Dark Order did not get involved at all. They were more so excluded from ringside, as Cody once again regained the TNT title, literally wrapping the chain around Mr. Brody Lee's face, nose, and eyes, and one last combination crossroads for an emphatic win, as Mr. Brody Lee suddenly treated. Much respect to Cody. Definitely was my match of the week in everything I watched in wrestling. I look forward to this women's division finally trying to develop, with Serena D being a real trailblazer in women's wrestling, being everything possible. I thought her and Big Swole had a nice, good, short, competitive match. Tag team scene still as hot as ever in AEW after the 20-minute Rush of Greatness with TH2. I really enjoyed that. I knew they weren't winning the titles, though. One of my favorite scenes. But I look forward now to the best friends. They hyped up the anniversary show perfectly. Every title's on the line next week. And of course, we celebrate 30 years of Jericho in Saturday Night Live format at the end. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm pretty sure we're going to get MJF versus Jericho at Full Gear. And you talk about two big beef houses opening, clashing with each other over that so-called title. I really enjoyed that. Think Will Hobbs has a very bright future. Some good solo promos. No idea what's going for the Young Bucks' mind, what their first match is going to be. And I look forward to where the Kenny Omega, him and Adam Page program goes as well. I enjoy this AEW Dynamite, top to bottom.
Question for you. So you mentioned the first thing you mentioned was the dog collar match with Cody. Interesting take, and I'm getting a lot of mixed reactions to this. They view Cody as potentially turning to the dark side. They had basically what I'm hearing a lot of, and I want your take on this briefly, is it possible that pretty soon, sooner rather than later, we're getting Cody turning heel on all the fans?
Well, it seems like all the elites turning heel, but based on that emphatic promo afterwards, I would think he just channeled the dark side temporarily. While I thought that might have been a long-term plan after he's suddenly been teasing this, I think for right now, as far as the anniversary show goes, he's just going to give the people what he wants to give them. He's going to stand by them. I don't think he's going to go back to like the golden hair per se, but I don't see a heelish turn in the short run for right now. And I also know people have major beef with the fact that Cody beat Mr. Brody Lee for that TNT title because they figured, oh, the Dark Order has value to it, taken as a threat, a 5-week feud, over. You got to consider that this possibly happened because Cody might have been suffering an injury, and then he was off doing some sort of like television, like taping and stuff like that. I think even Mr. Brody Lee suddenly teased on that too on a podcast. But the bottom line is this: Mr. Brody Lee's already established. He is being used to help the creative direction of the Dark Order in AEW. And through his influence, the Dark Order has garnered a lot more power and viewership too. Not to mention, they're the weekly highlight on BTE, it seems, anymore.
Right, exactly. And don't even get me started about how the Dark Order is like the primo of like, they have that storyline, whereas it just seems like everybody and their mother and their wrestling company is trying to replicate what Dark Order is doing. Don't even get me started on that. But anywho, I agree with you there. I think it's awesome that they've also kept the world title on Jon Moxley for as long as they can, establishing him as the badass world champion. Don't know who's going to take the title after him, but nonetheless, I think, Dynamite has been, would you say Dynamite, out of all the shows that have happened this week, was there anything that was, I guess, lagging or lacking in Dynamite this week?
And the tag team match I felt was a little out of place in the main event, but I understood why they did is to represent and celebrate Jericho. But honestly, I feel that could have been more of like maybe an intro into the second hour, especially with the false credit ending. If I was booking the show personally, I probably would have ended it with the TNT title match because that felt like the biggest story going into this show. That'd be the only criticism I have personally.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. But like you said earlier, the tag team division is definitely on fire. They definitely are not lagging behind in their tag team division. And also, I think their women's division is starting to gain some momentum. Not like it's totally on fire and in comparison to other companies, but it's definitely been improving. Anyway, so Dynamite, in regards to that, Dynamite was a spot-on show this week. Jack Attack, we're moving to you, big man.
All right.
You have Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
Go ahead, my dude.
All right. So this episode was just building towards Bound for Glory. They've been doing this, and I talked about it last week, how Victory Road felt like a Bound for Glory extended episode, where it was just filler for what's to come. Obviously, we're going to get Eric Young versus Rick Swann for the Impact World Championship, but that doesn't feel like the main event. What feels like the main event is a fatal 4-way tag team match between the Motor City Machine Guns, Ace Austin and Madman Fulton, the Good Brothers, and the North, I don't know why I forgot about the North of all tag
Longest
teams.
reigning Impact Tag Team Champion in history.
Yeah, one of the longest reigning, one of the most innovative tag teams in wrestling today. I feel like that would honestly steal the show for Bound for Glory. But tonight we saw Ace Austin and Madman Fulton, honestly one of the weaker tag teams, face the Motor City Machine Guns in the main event, which was a standout match. We also saw Brian Myers versus Tommy Dreamer. Brian Myers losing via DQ, showing a more sadistic side, beating up Tommy Dreamer with a kendo stick. They really tried to play this teacher versus protege thing, but it really hasn't been built up in their entire history of working together. It never really felt that way, so it kind of felt out of place. We had contract talks with Heath Slater that supposedly fell through, and we're seeing Heath getting very frustrated with Rhino behind the scenes. Even going so far as to call him Terry. He's like, well, what the hell, Terry? Why is this not working? And this is the only company where I can tolerate watching women's wrestling because it is that damn good. I think Impact has the best women's roster in professional wrestling today. I think having Deonna Purrazzo on top is a statement. Having Kimberly aligned with her is huge. Having to carry Kylie Ray. I'm all tongue-tied this morning. Oh my. Kylie Ray and Susie, aka Su Young, that whole dynamic, it's so interesting. And then it's just we have Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. It's a stacked division. And we also have women competing in intergender matches. We had Tessa Blanchard before she got fired. And then now we have Jordan Grace, who's competing for the X Division Championship at Bound for Glory. Like, I don't say anything good about women wrestling because it's treated so horribly in other companies. Not so much AEW, but WWE, it's treated like trash. But in Impact, it seems like they're genuinely viewed as like, hey, these are top level talent. We need to treat them as such. So I'm very excited to see what the future of Impact holds. It's a very good time to be an Impact fan.
To your point, it seems like it's good that, Kylie Ray, like, AEW is doing fantastic, but not every promotion is going to be for everybody. She went there when it first started. Then she decided it wasn't for her, and now she's going into what is considered to be Impact's biggest show of the year, like their WrestleMania, and she's competing for the women's championship. So it ended up being a good move for her. So
absolutely,
she ended up making the right call.
Really quickly, okay, because I'm thinking of somebody completely different. Kylie Ray is an Impact. Who am I thinking of in NXT UK who's been their longest reigning UK Women's Champion?
Kaylee Ray.
Hey, see, like, this is what's causing me problems is because their names are sounding so similar. Kaylee,
I mean, to be fair, we have no idea if Kaylee Ray and Kylie Ray have ever faced each other one-on-one. But to go with Pete's point,
I've never seen them in the same room.
I absolutely agree as far as this women's division. You're not only looking at the title picture, you're looking at interim tag team feuds, and you're looking at the knockouts branching out into other storylines to the point now we got Jordan Grace involved in the X Division title picture. And I cannot wait for that match on the Heat Bro Heat Challenge 2 that was set up by Scott Moore. That was brilliant.
Even that's brilliant.
So,
this whole thing of
you're giving opportunities. You're such a champion. Now we're really going to put you to the test in a 6-pack challenge.
Yep.
I'm
so high on
Chris shrinks.
Now,
I'm still high on Chris Bay, man.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, though, Jack. I keep saying it. You're right. They have such an in-depth Knockouts division. Look how many tag teams there are. What is stopping them from bringing the Knockouts tag titles back? And if you were to pick your first champs, who would they be?
It'd probably be Taya and Rosemary, honestly. I feel like they've been it would make sense for them to bring them in, have these titles in, and just have them win it. It would make sense. It would make those titles feel important. And more importantly, unlike WWE, they'd hold the titles for a good amount of time until we build this division to where it's not just the same single wrestlers just getting together and forming tag teams. No. I want actual tag team wrestling.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, as you know, next week we have a triple threat Knockouts tag team match that really might set up this foundation. You got Nevaeh and Jessica Havoc versus Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie versus apparently I think it's again Tasha Steelz and Kiara Hogan, which I also find interesting. Another aspect of the Knockouts division, Kylie Ray, it's like Susie or Sue Young, whatever the hell you want to call her, is like slowly maybe influencing Kylie Ray. I love Kylie Ray, okay? I'm super happy she's got herself together mentally because mental health should be the #1 thing people think about. She's in a happy place. She's comfortable in Impact Wrestling. She made the PWI Top 500, number 70, I believe, the highest ranking I might add women's professional wrestler, I think, in a long time. And she's a champion across multiple Impact Wrestling promotions, making waves against men and women in wrestling. She's at the happiest spot in her life. Oh, by the way, congrats to her recent engagement and Jordan Grace's recent engagement to Jonathan Gresham.
Marriage, not just engagement. Yep. Jordan Grace got married.
You're right.
I'm all for the married couples in wrestling. I think if pro wrestling, whether or not they should exploit that and make that television storyline, I think they should personally leave it up to the talent. Like, look at Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. They're all like, look at us. We're Triple H and Stephanie 2.0, except Candice is a better wrestler. Or another example in current wrestling, we have not married or engaged, but Keith Lee and Mia Yim. They're a dating couple, and they're not offended to putting their relationship and actually showing that, well, maybe not like they're dating, making that storyline, but like we can work together and do mixed matches together. Anywho, I agree with that 100%. If they bring back the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, as long as they don't put one of the titles on the dude like they did with ODB and Eric Young all those years ago. That was
a dark era, and that wasn't even Impact Wrestling. That was TNA under the Bischoff Hogan regime. Let's not go back down that road. There's one other thing, Jack, you didn't cover that I want to ask you about. What do you think on this whole EC3 narrative thing? He didn't destroy the title. He just tossed it away.
I feel like it's dragging a little bit. Honestly, I feel like this match should have happened already, and I think if we wanted to build it up, we should have waited until like after Victory Road to build this up. It's just taking too long.
Well, apparently it's official. EC3 versus Moose is now made for Bound for Glory. And also, side note, Eddie Edwards versus Ken Shamrock. What's this about Sami Callihan talking about social media influence trying to get Shamrock back?
I think he's just manipulating the poor guy. I think he's trying to get back to his heyday, and every time he says they want the Ken Shamrock old, he's like, ooh, I can be that. I can do that again. And I guess that's the dynamic. It's weird. I feel like with the recent departure of RVD, Sami Callihan is just thrown in this vortex where he should be in the main event picture.
Thank you.
He should 100% be in the main event picture. I'm not upset that Eric Young and Rich Swann are in the spotlight. It's well deserved. But having Sami Callihan team up or be associated with Ken Shamrock makes very little sense storyline-wise. They already feuded. They already had a match at Slammiversary. It just doesn't make sense for them to be aligned right now.
While we're on the subject,
go ahead.
Sorry, Noah. While we're on the subject, what are you thinking about the whole RVD, leaving Impact thing?
I don't think it hurts the company. I think RVD was kind of there to. I think he was there to raise awareness that the company's there. Seeing him lose, like, well deserved, because Katie Forbes was very annoying ringside. I was very very satisfied whenever RVD would take an L. And man, he's just gonna do whatever he wants to do. Impact really didn't lose anything. In fact, they have more like credible superstars. They're like, hey, these are our guys. He beat that guy, and he came from over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
I think Impact lost more when they got rid of Tessa Blanchard than they did with RVD.
Wow.
Maybe.
I mean, they put the world heavyweight championship on a woman. No company has done that. When was the last time pro wrestling did that? It never did it.
Yes, it did.
I mean, the closest
as far as a world champion, you're right, but let's not count out what has happened across other companies. Did you forget China?
You took the words right out of my mouth. You beat me by like 1 second, and that's 1 second I'm not going to forget. Okay, I was just thinking that. That's that twin telepathy. We're both named Noah. It's that we're on the same wavelength. I was just about to mention that. I was going to say the closest thing that came to that was when they put the Intercontinental Championship on China. They still haven't done anything. Like they still haven't given the women the chance that they put female talent in Royal Rumbles. Do you think that's the same thing? No, it's not, because give them a chance to work with the men and the women, defend like an Intercontinental Championship across the women's division. Give with the women's division more gold and take it away from the men for a little bit. I mean, it doesn't like they're doing nothing with the United States Championship. They're keeping it on Bobby Lashley in the Hurt Business. They could have put it on Naomi for all I know.
I think we're getting a little off track. I think we're getting a little off track.
He's ranting, but he's also trying to break down. He's also trying to break down barriers. But the bottom line, go along with your point, Jack. Impact Wrestling is thriving when it comes to women's professional wrestling. I am looking very forward to where the women's division goes from here on all fronts, and extremely looking forward to Kylie Ray versus Deonna Purrazzo at Bound for Glory.
I think that'll seal the show.
Let's move on. Let's move off of Impact, because Impact's hot. I think if anything, they don't currently have a television deal, if I'm correct, or do they?
Access TV, dude.
Yeah.
I think they should. I think honestly, they should be put on mainstream television. If they have,
put them back on Spike.
Put them on Spike. Put them on. You can put them on the Discovery Channel for all we know. Anyway, I'd say do it. I'd just say do it.
We're trying to move away from PG, buddy.
Moly.
Yeah. No. Don't put them on the Discovery Channel.
I don't want to learn shit.
Let's put them on my TV, MTV.
That would work.
That would work.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we move
ruined
on.
Music enough.
We move on to the company, the company that got us all into wrestling as kids, but the one that we just love to hate on so much because now we're all adults and we think they should be doing things differently. Hoss of the Sauce making his return into the ring of the Sauce. You had Raw and SmackDown this week, buddy. What did you? What stood out to you? We had the draft this week, which. The whole thing of how they're comparing sports drafts with WWE drafts. I got a huge taste of that, but I want to know your thoughts, and so do the people.
Okay, so I don't have a whole lot to say about Raw, but that doesn't mean like that things didn't stick out to me. I've got just a couple things. I'm just gonna stick it, to keep that short, mainly because I'm trying to keep this short and sweet. Obviously, Mustafa Ali is now the leader of the Hurt Business. That's actually really cool.
Retribution.
Did I say Hurt Business? God.
Yes,
you did. Hurt Business.
Botch.
Big botch.
I need
to see these? These are cobwebs.
A little rusty. He's a little rusty.
But he's now the leader of Retribution. We've all been shitting on Retribution a little bit, trying to see what was going on. And, maybe this was the plan all along. There's been this hacker thing. Let's see where it goes. One thing I will say things that get kind of taken for granted a lot in pro wrestling a lot is selling. And in the women's tag championship match, Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, in my eyes, got a massive amount of points from me when it came to selling. When I saw Ruby Riott in that Kirifuda, I thought she was damn near dead. And Liv Morgan also sold having to watch it happen. I thought I was watching a movie. And I can't take anything away from Shayna Baszler because she was the one putting in the chokehold. Basically the way the whole thing went down, just like the emotion of it all. That's the kind of thing that sometimes we can lose sight of when when we're like so like invested in the match itself. The match itself didn't do a whole lot for me, but that closing moments of that match was so fucking good just based on the selling itself. Like the three of them, not Shayna, obviously. Like Shayna's never really done much for me. Jack knows a whole lot of what I'm talking about. Everything about it was just so like I was very, very moved by it. Now the draft. Drafts aren't always about shock value. They're about value themselves. A lot of people have been kind of shitting on the draft and everything. And mainly because there weren't a whole lot of surprises. A lot of people ended up going back to back to the drafts, the shows that we were already on. The thing is, as long as they were on the clock, as long as people were on the clock, they were in danger of getting drafted. It was, the responsibility of NBC and Fox and Raw and SmackDown to know, to know that in my eyes when I'm watching that. So when I'm looking at, Raw and SmackDown draft their world champions first, in my eyes, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, why would they not do that? They're saving their most valued guys first. It's not a surprise move or anything like that, but it's also a smart move. It's like, if you have the number one pick in the NFL or the NBA and you have this valued top prospect, you're not going to just be like, hey, I'm going to take this guy first. I'm going to swerve people. You're going to do something else. Now, did I agree with everything that went down in the draft? Obviously not. I would not have broken up the New Day, at least not in that way. Can
we all agree right now that the reason why AJ Styles was drafted Raw is because Paul Heyman?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. What?
Yes.
What do you mean no?
They're filming from the same place. It wouldn't have made a difference.
Good. Okay. Good point. I don't
Same
know
with
why they did it.
Same with couples. Like, why do you think Bianca Belair went to SmackDown?
Because it doesn't matter.
That's another thing that stands out to me. Like, I'm very, very happy with that. Another thing I didn't agree with, and Noah, Simple Man, I told you this too. I would have broken Miz and Morrison up.
Thank you.
I would have broken that up.
Again?
I would have broken them up because John Morrison came back to WWE, and for the same reason that Drew McIntyre came back, because he wants that star power. I love Miz and Morrison together. They're great.
I think it's Morrison. I think now that he's back, I think Morrison, because they're doing this thing with Otis and the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think now is the time. If John Morrison has been a world champion other places, I know he's been around for like decades, but I think
I sincerely hope breaking up Heavy Machinery is leading to that. But and one other thing that gets that does not get noticed a lot when it comes to drafts all around, regardless of any sport, real or scripted, is rounds. Even though they went back to their current show, the Hurt Business went in the first round. I think that says a lot about their fucking future, man.
Yeah.
So one other thing I'm going to say is Naomi went to Raw, and I think personally, two things. One, she's definitely going to be in the fight for the Raw Women's Championship. And two, MVP said some things about this on his Twitter account. So there's been some speculation that he might be in the business of recruiting her.
Which one is
That's all I got. Oh, one other thing. There's one person that stood out for me from this entire show as far as the show itself, not just the draft, and that's Big E. If there was any doubt as far as him being a main event player, that Falls Count Anywhere match snuffed it out.
Can't argue that, despite the fact they've been rounding back Sheamus versus Big E. I would hope that this is the big time ending. So going back to Monday Night Raw, Mustafa Ali, the leader of Retribution. Why do I feel like they're just recreating 2010? Retribution is going to get buried at Survivor Series versus Team WWE, which probably will be the Hurt Business.
I don't think they're trying to recreate the Nexus with this. I honestly don't. I think personally, I like how this is weird for Ali, because you take him up as you see him as this this hero who always stands for good. He always, he's made it publicly clear about his morals compass. He's a good guy. He's this, and then yet he walks up to the basically the thugs who have been attacking people for weeks, and then he turns around with that grin on his face, looking at Hurt Business. Like, this is interesting. Like, this is a possibility of adding complexity to his character, because in his mind, he could possibly be thinking, I'm still holding true to my morals, and now I have this army behind me who's going to back up everything I say. So I'm interested to see what they do with this, with him running Retribution. I totally didn't see him as the leader, at all. Now I'm curious what they're going to do with Ricochet, because now it's like he's the only one left out of the main three. They put Cedric Alexander in the Hurt Business. They put Ali at the head of Retribution. So what? They're just going to... That man was a world champion around the world. Ricochet.
Yeah.
AKA King Puma. Is that how you pronounce it? Someone
I
check.
believe it was.
Prince
Yeah.
King Puma, Luke Underground, also King Ricochet, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. You're right on all fronts.
Why aren't they capitalizing on this guy?
Because Vince doesn't see the potential in him. That's why Ricochet and Apollo Crews are getting squashed by the Hurt Business. You forgot Apollo Crews. That's the tag team that's probably going to go up against friggin' Retribution.
Right.
It's like, I just don't understand. Like, Vince famously does not like smaller wrestlers, but then like every now and then one will come along that has something. It's like somehow he has this one little thing in his body that like will make you that you can navigate and be like, it'll get to him, that'll make him want to take a chance on somebody.
AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan.
I think Vince the only thing that Vince needs is the idea, which hardly ever hits him because he's getting old, age, and out of touch. I mean, if the idea of making Ricochet into a star ever hit his brain, likely it won't because he's too obsessed with the size factor of his talent. I mean, he sees size and he thinks money. He looks at Brock Lesnar, who's 50-something years old. I know I'm 50-something. I said that. I know it's not true, but I'm saying 50 just for the sake of not knowing his actual age. Plus, he's old as fuck. Anyway, 50-something years old and still sees money in him, and it still pays him a shitload of money per contract. Anywho, I think if Vince gave Ricochet any thought and gave him the opportunity, he would be surprised because, yes, I haven't seen much of him on the mic. That's impressive. Ricochet cutting promos, I don't really associate good promos with Ricochet, but I
can tell you right now, they're not great.
That guy can work.
That's the difference.
He can work his ass off in the ring. But I don't know. I think hopefully what doesn't happen is he gets frustrated and then they just let him out of his contract, because I think WWE would be flushing that down the toilet and just kind of, wasting the opportunity. I mean, they had the United States title on him for a while. He was if I'm not mistaken, he was also North American champion in NXT. He could go back down to NXT.
But possibly.
I've got nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I could see that. To go off your story point, Pete, I agree. The selling from Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, then again, Shannon Bates, you're supposed to sell her because she's legit, unlike Nia. I definitely agree with you on that. Yep, sorry, I said the name. Anyway, that's why Shanna just puts champion over on her picture, so don't worry about it. Just pretend that she don't exist. Anyway, I agree with you, Pete. That was great storytelling. The Falls Count Anywhere, when I look at the Raw and SmackDown brands, that's probably my favorite match out of the two altogether. But I do wonder, what the hell does Aleister Black mean by a barbaric match that he wants to face Kevin Owens in, apparently, this coming Monday? Speaking of Kevin Owens, I'm surprised you didn't talk about Kevin Owens versus The Fiend.
Yeah, I did leave that out, unfortunately. It was a good match. It's one of those things where, and at the end of the match, he was at the top of the stage with Alexa Bliss. I'm loving what Alexa Bliss is doing right now. It's probably the best work she's done in her entire career.
I'm not going to argue that. Because finally, we're getting the whole Harley Quinn Joker vibe that I knew eventually they were going to tackle when they had her really choose to dress up like Harley Quinn during some of her matches where she was champion. We all knew this was coming eventually, but talk about a weird dynamic. Now we're seeing The Fiend, who you think will be a pay-per-view draw on SmackDown. I don't know whether or not that hurts his character, but I guess it does take it into a different direction. As far as the draft goes, I missed the whole random computer nonsense. I get what you're saying about the champions. The champions, though, are a no-brainer. Why would you draft the WWE champions to friggin' SmackDown, Universal champion to Raw? Sometimes I feel like these champions are just placed in place because of the belts they have. I feel like they were kind of pointless for the draft. Another thing about the draft, when I think about key talents that weren't even drafted, like Chad Gable and Mickie James, they're still free. They have like 4 names they didn't even draft at all, according to what I read.
Just sign them for it. Just sign them for whatever draft they want to. I mean, for all we know, we could see if they're free.
And if I may, why did the New Day win the tag titles if they were going to be split up? Why would we do that?
My hope, and I'm just gonna do this. I don't believe in this, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Go for it.
Maybe they're planning on some kind of merger. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I would actually agree with you there because I keep saying focus tag team wrestling on one brand, then build your women's division on the other. If you got both tag champs on Raw, why not do a unification match and finally give us some real championships?
But I'm not normally this harsh. You guys know I'm pretty half full in most places. This is how bad WWE's tag division is right now.
Yes.
What would the merger actually do? That's how bad WWE's tag division is right now.
Well, considering we really have Street Profits, New Day, Humberto Carrillo, and well, I guess you don't have Dominic.
What was that?
You don't got that anymore.
Who was that? Alberto who?
Humberto
Carrillo.
I have one more thing.
Don't know who that
is. With Ivar's injury, after what happened to AOP, I look at Ivar's injury and I think the Viking Raiders might be on the chopping block next.
It wouldn't surprise me.
After what happened to AOP, I have one thing to say.
Go for it.
I think an Humberto Carrillo heel turn is necessary.
Guy.
I think
now you remember who he is.
Yeah, now he remembers.
I think we look at this guy. I think he's talented, but he is directionless.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be good for him.
He hasn't had direction since he got moved up to 205 Live, but he's Angel Garza's cousin, and they're both on the same show.
It's a guy that it'd be good with them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, literally, they're cousins. That makes sense for a tag team because that's family. Because right now they broke up Angel Garza and Andrade, and I don't see them bringing that back. So we just saw Andrade get squashed with Keith Lee a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I don't know what they call him, but yeah.
One last thing, Pete, because I'm surprised you didn't talk about this, because as far as character development, this is the best character going across Raw and SmackDown. Roman Reigns.
Yeah, we need to get Pete's take on this. We were talking about this last week.
I will say this much, and part of it was just me trying to like save time and and all that good stuff. But show, despite people shitting on it a lot of people did not like this show this past weekend. But Roman Reigns is probably the best he's ever been. Everyone was wanting this for so long, and people even shat on the Jey Uso thing, like Jey Uso getting a shot at the Universal Championship. But I loved the fact that Jey Uso got, was just the fact that Jey Uso was doing something.
Yeah,
like I was just talking about the fact that there was a singles tag team wrestler in Eric that just got split up because Ivar was injured. And now I'm scared shitless for the Viking Raiders because that might lead to them getting released. The same thing that happened to AOP. I don't want to see that happen to the Usos. That is the last tag team that needs to get released.
Oh,
that is the last tag team. That is the last tag team.
There's no way.
No way.
There is no chance in hell the Usos will ever get released as long as they're connected to that family name. If you're connected to that family name, you are WWE for life.
I mean, they got it. I mean, they're getting. I mean, there was the period of time they were getting DUIs. I mean, bringing it real, making it real life here. They were getting DUIs. One of them was getting DUIs left and right, and Naomi, the one who's married to Naomi, and all three of them haven't gotten released.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's my thoughts on it.
I hate to say this, but they would get it. They could almost get away with murder, but hopefully they don't murder. Anyway,
I am a huge fan of the idea of a Hell in a Cell I Quit match. That sounds awesome to me.
That makes it actually seem really worthwhile. I didn't think to make the Hell in a Cell more crazy. I like that a lot.
I still want him to get rid of the red cage, but I agree. I like the idea of the match.
Can we confirm that they're having the red cage?
What?
Are they having the red cage? Are they bringing the red cage back? Or are they
it's red cage, dude.
Probably.
They said the silver one's old. They stuck with the red cage since.
Is the Fiend having a match at Hell in a Cell? Because I don't want the red light coming back. And
who knows? He hasn't had the red light for a
while. As long as the Fiend's not involved, we shouldn't see no red light. Don't remind me of last year, though. That was
Here's what I want to know. I don't know if you guys have noticed this since the Thunderdome came back, but that scoreboard, that big scoreboard, it's a little bit lower than it normally is. How do they plan on getting that Hell in a Cell in the ring, in the arena safely?
Oh,
that's what I want to know.
It's WWE.
They're professionals. They'll find a way, but I'm curious about that.
They've already spread out the friggin' ring area farther than a normal arena. Trust me, they'll figure out a way.
Yeah. So going back to talking about the free agents and where they could show up, possibly showing up on NXT, guys, we are 1 week removed from a takeover. I personally believe that takeover delivered.
Yep.
Specifically with the match with Finn Balor and
Kyle O'Reilly.
Thank you, Kyle O'Reilly. That match was fantastic. First thing I wanted to talking about NXT. Finn Balor busted his damn jaw during that goddamn match, and
in 2 places.
went to social media to basically say that I'm pretty sure he's gonna have to wire his jaw shut. Which again, talk about situations where it's a shitty situation that could also prove to benefit. We could very much. I'm not saying I think it's still too early to do this because we kind of just were introduced to the Prince, his character, where not smiling all the time, not really a good guy, not really a bad guy either. But with him not being able to cut promos, I mean, does he just take does he just not perform and heel or just not cut promos and just perform the rest of him? Or I guess for me, it's first of all, working with a broken jaw, my God, props to Finn Balor. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we get 2 massive returns in our women's division at NXT. First, we get Toni Storm giving us a promo via the TV, and we all love Toni Storm here. But also Ember frickin' Moon. Thank God. I'm so glad that she's not forced to retire due to injury or announce something via Twitter, and she can actually come back and perform.
Yep.
That promo that she gave on Wednesday night was kind of a misfire to me because she's trying to do this. I'm being this tough son of a bitch, but at the same time, I'm so happy to be back. It's like that. I didn't really fuck with that.
It doesn't work with the Mad Max Renegade look at all.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So to me, I want to go back to this with Finn Balor. It's just what do they do? Do they? I mean, it's not like with what's his name? The
Karrion Kross.
Huh? Yeah, It's not like with
Kross.
Karrion Kross where he cannot perform, but at the same time, it's a wrestler's bread and butter is their promos. If this guy can't talk because his jaw is broken, I mean, what the hell are they gonna do? Are they just gonna have him defend the titles without cutting any promos and being able to create any story? I guess I don't know.
We'll have to see. He'll probably use the Twitter game, or they'll have to come up with some way to give him a mouthpiece. Maybe Regal will present messages beyond his behalf. The important thing is he's not vacating the NXT title, and apparently he's only out for a few weeks. And shoot, Kyle O'Reilly, he couldn't be an in-ring action because he probably got internal injuries. You saw what that liver kick did to him, and kudos to him, he's still on that match. According to what I read, that match was still ended prematurely too because of the extent of both men's injuries.
Right. Exactly.
They beat the shit out of each other.
Yes, they did.
That is a classic for the year under the WWE brand. Bar none.
That was a great match.
That was a battle.
It's another one people didn't want, but they were convinced at the end.
Look, Shawn Michaels put it best, and I can also back that up because I've watched his work for Ring of Honor and other sports. Kyle O'Reilly is one of the secret hidden gems in all of professional wrestling. He proved it in that match.
Right.
I think a lot of those people that were shitting on it didn't watch Ring of Honor when Kyle O'Reilly was in it.
Yeah, probably, most likely.
On top of that, we also had 2 big returns in the women's division, and we also saw a team up between Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley, which I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't think it was the best women's match by any means, but it was still interesting. I think what they're doing with Rhea Ripley, and also shout out, today happens to be her birthday. Happy birthday, Rhea. Turns 24 or 24, 23. She was born in 96. Yeah, 24. I think I'm gonna give it just throw out a hot take right now. If anyone deserves to be in, Triple H gave her the the notable honor of being the future of the business. And I couldn't agree more. If I were to pick anyone in WWE to kind of pull a Tessa Blanchard and put a world title on them from the men's division, I would go with Rhea Ripley.
Whoa.
I'm being honest about that.
I'm not arguing that. She definitely can do it.
She's tough as fucking nails. I think here's the thing, and everybody, and I was saying earlier, with a wrestler's bread and butter is the promos. She doesn't need to go out there and use big words and cut these elaborate promos and cut a pipe bomb like CM Punk did in Vegas. She just needs to, she goes out there, picks up a mic, says the simplest things, and it puts her over with the fans. I'll give you two examples. When she showed up on the main NXT from NXT UK, walked out, interrupted Shayna Baszler, and all she said was, "You've beaten everyone here, but you haven't beaten me, bitch." All she said, throw the mic down, over with the fans instantly. Then
that's it.
A month later, Becky Lynch, Raw Women's Champion, shows up out of nowhere and basically calls out Shayna Baszler because they were set for a WrestleMania match, and gets interrupted by Rhea Ripley and says, "So you're the man? Let's see if you have a set of balls." Again, simplicity. She doesn't have to say a zillion fucking things, which is perfect. And again, she has that experience of working elsewhere in the independents, and she's young and unproven. So I think if there's anybody you want to lead, not only the women's division, but your product as a whole into the future, it's Rhea Ripley. And not to mention, stand-up, solid human being in real life also.
Nice.
So that's me. I wanted to say that just because it's her birthday and because I'm a stan. But overall, I would say the recent takeover delivered, and especially with the Balor O'Reilly match. And also, I'm curious to see what happens with Balor. And then also, the women's division in NXT is on fire right now. Also, shout out to Walter and Kaylee Ray for being the longest UK champions in WWE history. So, as far as I know, Walter hasn't surpassed Pete Dunne yet, correct?
Not yet.
Fact check me.
Not yet.
Okay, well, Kaylee Ray then.
Kaylee Ray has, yes.
Kaylee Ray has.
Let me ask you guys something. Something about, it has something to do with Ember Moon and Toni Storm.
Okay.
So, we all are aware of Brian Alvarez. He is a very interesting character. He's very outspoken. This time he wasn't very bad. He actually had a lot of positive things to say about, the women's title match. I, didn't want to throw my phone when watching the video, reviewing them when watching his review. I can't take that away from him. But when he was talking about the returns of both Ember Moon and Toni Storm, he was bringing up, how they were both like back to back and things like that. Noah's doing like an NWO entrance right now.
Wow.
He was like, who am I supposed to be more excited for right now? Like he was confused by that. And like basically, and the other guy was saying they were basically like set up to steal each other's thunder. Did you guys feel that vibe at all? Because I personally didn't. I was able to feel equally excited for both of them. Like I was just like, it was this thing where I was just like, my excitement level just kind of like started to feel like, just building up as they were both coming around. It wasn't a thing where I felt like this conflicted excitement for them. I don't know.
Ember Moon hasn't even acknowledged the fact that Toni Storm said that she returned as she was that very night. Yeah, I would say literally it was just a setup for Io Shirai. You got more renewed competition, and the NXT Women's Division now has a lot more to worry about. I don't think it really ruined either one's return. And as Toni Storm said from afar, she's coming back different to turn it upside down, inside out. Curious what that will bring. And we see currently Ember Moon, she's still sticking with the classics as she got the win of the Eclipse. For Dakota Kai, though, at her expense. And literally, we got a new theme. I'm guessing that's got to be Hailstorm, because that is not a Def Rebel track. That is a badass track.
I love it.
New music. So, no, I don't think it hurt either one of them. At this point, I'm just curious when Toni Storm will show up. How will she make her presence known now that she is NXT?
Maybe if they both came back in person. Maybe if they both came back in person, that'd be different. But one came back on the Tron and one came back in person.
Exactly.
I feel like they're different.
I think with Toni Storm, if you guys disagree with me, feel free to. But I think with Toni Storm, here's the thing. I think there's some unfinished business. And by that, I mean Rhea Ripley. I think we're going to see that on NXT. I think it's possible, not likely, that the title is involved. So maybe what happens is Rhea, if there's a number one contendership upcoming, Rhea wins and Toni ambushes her or costs her. Maybe it's not even for the title. Rhea loses the number one contendership because Toni involves herself and she's not involved in the number one contendership match. And she basically ambushes Rhea Ripley and the two feud on NXT. And it's a takeover worthy match because the two were killing it on NXT UK and they're bringing it to the main flagship NXT.
I don't know necessarily they will revisit it that soon because right now when I look at Rhea Ripley, I see one big feud right now that we're still waiting for the one-on-one match, and that's her versus Raquel Gonzalez, which is kind of what turned me off from that main event tag team match because the focus there was not on Dakota Kai, unfortunately, but it was focused on Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. We're still waiting to see who can get the best out of these two. And right now, I feel like while Rhea does still have title aspirations, she clearly has to go through that target first.
Right. And then she'll probably she'll get ambushed by Mercedes Martinez, and then they'll just go back and forth between those two until eternity.
I would think Mercedes Martinez, if we're lucky she comes back to NXT, I hope. I would think Mercedes Martinez would start fresh and go after somebody different. But again,
she's actually returning to NXT. She's removed from Retribution altogether.
Hey man, Austin Theory did.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you talk about returns. You forgot to talk about the other return that happened. The Freak, Dexter Loomis.
There you go. Dexter Loomis making a return. I think we've all have been perplexed as to what they're doing with the character. I feel like they're trying to do a similar vein. They're basically, I don't know if this is something that they basically forced on him and they basically forced this character on him or if it's solely him. It seems to me like it's mostly in the same vein as what they're doing with the Fiend on SmackDown. They're just letting him roll with it. I don't know what him as a character, his motives are, what he's actually wanting to do, but we've seen his return yet, and nothing shy of interesting and unique. I don't know.
That's all he leaves you as, because again, he has no words. He speaks through illustration and actions. And apparently he's already raised the ire of one guy, so we know what he's going to do in the short run. He's taking on the caveman, Cameron Grimes.
Or as I like to call him, the ZZ Top fanboy, James Storm wannabe.
Former X Division champion, though. I'm not going to
going to the moon, baby.
Going to the moon,
baby. Cameron Grimes. All right.
You're going to the moon.
Cameron Grimes. Oh, good Lord.
We're going to
All right. Before we get to Cameron Grimes anymore, you gotta talk about this, Noah. Shotzi Blackheart is hosting a special NXT episode themed Halloween Havoc.
Yes. Personally, with Shotzi Blackheart, it's the same thing as personally, it's awesome because this is somebody who clearly loves Halloween, look
at her tank.
Halloween. Basically, they're letting her shine, and it's just beautiful. Whether it's good, I have no idea, but it's basically like Shotzi's hosting her own version of WrestleMania. Except WrestleMania is this huge event, and Shotzi Blackheart and Halloween Havoc is its own thing. It's not like millions of people around the world are going to be watching like Mania, but at the same time, no, I think it's great. I think there's going to be a lot of tanks involved. I think she's just
First little pumpkin up on the very front screen. I love the set, by the way. Oh man, how did we forget about this? Duh, new venue, Capitol Wrestling Center, hybrid real fans and virtual fans. I love it personally.
I like it a lot too. I like that setup for NXT. I think it's giving them something. It's giving all the talent something new other than just the Performance Center, which Pete said months ago that they spent trillions of dollars, even though Vince McMahon's not a trillionaire.
He got bumped from the Performance Center. He got bumped from the Forbes 400.
Right.
Karma is a bitch.
Well,
what are you gonna do?
Anywho, I like that. I like the whole setup. I personally think that it's still getting people involved, as long as it's getting the fans involved one way or another with the virtuality. As long as too many people aren't getting in trouble with like what they're doing with the Thunderdome,
Well, I think we don't need to worry about that because let's be honest, people respect NXT and they even have real people there now too. They're trying to bring fans in. You saw they actually had fans around ringside. It wasn't just fans and family and staff. They're actually bringing real people in. I'm just waiting for him that says, hey, you want to be part of the Capitol Wrestling Center? Hell yeah. Fuck the Thunderdome.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So one more thing, because we got to talk about the angle. Tough break for Ridge Holland. He was being subbed, it seemed like, for a few of Adam Cole and suffered a horrible injury.
Yeah.
Oof. That sucks.
Golly.
Sucks.
Yeah.
That hurt me. I wasn't even there and that hurt me.
Yeah.
Did you see the way he collapsed?
I saw the X immediately. I was just like, no.
I kind of mentioned that. I kind of what it reminded me of, if anybody remembers the match between Triple H and Jericho back in the day, where Triple H tore his quad and he kept wrestling, like I kind of thought of it similarly, except I mean back then an X wasn't throw up, he kept going, but I mean at the same time it's just like it's a shitty situation.
We heard him scream out in agony. That was just pain.
Oof.
Like Seth Rollins tore his ACL and like he kept wrestling.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, John Cena got his nose on the other side of his face and kept going.
Well, John Cena's not human, okay?
Right.
He's something else.
I don't think any of these guys are human.
That's fair.
Moving right along, there's one thing in particular I wanted to talk about. This is something that's been on my mind for quite a while. The shit that some of the talent get for outside incidents is completely on them. Like, for example, what's going on with Velveteen Dream. People have plenty of good reason to hate on them if those accusations are true. Same thing with Matt Riddle. And I know Pete mentioned this earlier. I don't know what the hell is going to happen here. Personally, when Matt Riddle showed up on the scene, I was a huge fan. I liked his character. I liked his demeanor. I liked how you have this relaxed kind of surfer dude personality who kick ass in the ring. Personally, the NXT championship match between him and Adam Cole was fantastic at TakeOver. I loved that. I also liked when he was tag champs with Pete Dunne. Like that was, I mean, Pete and Noah, you guys remember when we went to see NXT in Columbus and they were tag champs and they were doing their thing, and it was dope. But I guess with everything that's going on right now and the fact that basically WWE, their talent, Matt, and the example of Matt Riddle, I mean, I guess, I don't know, is it going to be going forward? Is it going to be even more difficult for Matt Riddle to get a main title or a main roster, not a main roster push, but I guess is it just like they're just treading water until his contract expires, or like what are they doing with him right now? Like I just don't get it.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of companies, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, and the WWE, I would have to assume it's no different. When these kind of things go down, whether it ends up positively for the person involved or not, the stigma's still there, and it's like they just don't want to deal with it. So it's like this person was still involved in this, and it's like it's kind of like I don't even know what kind of metaphor to use, but it's like this person was still involved in this. It's
Blacklisted.
It's always good.
That's what
it's always going to have. Yeah.
They're blacklisted for life.
It sucks. It sucks. I think it sucks more when the person ended up on the other side of it positively, because it's like everything worked out. So why does it have to be like that?
He's still going to be that guy, and there's nothing you can do about it now.
And that's why I feel so bad for Matt Riddle, because it's like, for all we know, Candy Cartwright is just a bitch who is like trying to spread these lies, but we don't know that right now. And so if she comes out and finds out that he ends up being innocent, then
his career's possibly over.
Guys, Matt Riddle went on record and basically said she's crazy, she's making things up. I've blocked her number several times. He said that once. he hasn't repeated himself over time. The media has been blowing things out of proportion from the ways I see it. Personally, if they're going to ruin his career, that's on them. That's on to the people who believe Candy Cartwright. Personally, when either Matt's lying and lying to his wife, everybody who talks to him about it, and himself, or he's telling the truth. I mean, it's one or two options. So I mean, to me, I want to believe him because
So do I.
I understand who he is as a human being. The Velveteen Dream situation is that if that's true, then fuck him. But you know, I'm being blunt about it. But I mean,
you don't know blood. I got that. I still want to have a lot of things I want to say, but
if I could
we'll
just
get
be
there.
blunt.
Freaking beat done.
Exactly. Mainstream stuff affecting wrestlers' careers. It happens all the time. People have been fired, i.e., Enzo Amore. But no, I think I wanted to mention it briefly because it's been on the tip of everybody's tongue that apparently this guy is on the verge of being blacklisted because of something that happened years ago.
Here's the shitty thing about.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We can't just say, well, it happened years ago. I mean, it's still like, if this happened, trauma is trauma, and it has to be treated as such.
Yeah.
We can't short sell it. You can't sit there and say, oh, this happened years ago. Fucking the business collapsed almost years ago because of something someone did. And they still don't talk about him. 13 years. 13 years.
Here we go. Triggering Jack here.
Now here's the thing. You can't. No, you're not triggering me. I'm just saying you can't say, well, one thing's different than the other. It's a fact. If this is true, then he will be blacklisted. He'll have no career. His presence will be done. If this does work out for him, maybe he doesn't get blacklisted, but the stigma will still follow him forever. This is a lose-lose.
Yeah,
still be blacklisted.
And I hate being so blunt about it, but
you're speaking fact.
That's a fact.
I hate mentioning. It really. I debated whether or not I was going to talk about this, but I just feel like it needs to be mentioned because in the vein of what we're talking about, I mean, people will still get shit for crap like this that happens. Somebody who I stick up for every single day of my life. You all know who I'm talking about. Paige gets all the bullshit on the internet every single day, and because of her privacy being invaded.
It wasn't her fault.
It wasn't her fault.
She got hacked.
Yep.
Right. And I mean, that's a scenario where, something happened, and now the media has it turned the media against her, and it was to the point where she was fed up to it to the point where she almost committed suicide, and that would have robbed us all of the greatest general manager in SmackDown.
Well, that's the flaw with social media. Okay, you leave yourself at risk. And there's people out there that want to destroy people's lives. And in the end, it literally psychologically does that. Case in point, a young 23-year-old promising women's professional wrestler, Hannah, took her life away because of this.
Right.
And I hate the people that like play victim on this and just say, well, you don't like it, don't log on. That is seeing those comments piss me off.
Right.
They genuinely piss me off because those are people playing victim.
Yep.
Saying that they're like, when basically saying, seeing people say you shouldn't post this. They're playing victim for the things that they say.
Right.
It's ignorant.
And don't get me wrong. People say horrible shit on social media. They do
say horrible shit,
and
but not that horrible.
Hurtful.
Same. I've blown the gasket a couple of times too.
People say and people respond in negative ways to the hurtful things that are said on social media. And don't get me wrong. You boys know I talk trash. I can talk some trash, but I talk trash to only.
But there's the line.
Huh?
There's a certain line though you don't cross.
Right.
You are just criticizing somebody as a fan. You're not bullying somebody person to person.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
And some of the shit, I mean, most of the shit that I talk online, I debate on whether or not I would say these things to my face. I could say Brock Lesnar sucks. Would I stand in the ring looking at him in the face and actually say it? Maybe.
Absolutely. City, no, you'll be lucky to survive.
Yo,
You're better off
getting it.
saying what
Hey,
you're
I don't know
saying
about
to
you,
Bailey.
but I take an
Put a
F5.
check in front of my face and we'll talk.
I take an F5. He put me on his shoulders and spin me around like a helicopter, and I just land and take a nice nap in the ring. You know,
I would
like,
take an
that'd be-
F5 for $5,000.
Yeah,
You're crazy.
Yes,
I'd do it.
I would take an
Yeah, I'd do
F5
that.
for $5,000.
I'd take
No,
an F5 for
actually-
5,000 for sure.
No.
For sure.
10,000 so that the other 5,000 can cover my hospital bills.
I'm about to
There
say,
you
yeah,
go.
how much of that's going to cover your hospital bill, okay?
I'd be fine.
I need some spending money afterwards. I need to make sure that this is going to be worth it in the
Yeah,
end.
after taxes, what's that going to equate to?
If he puts me in a Kimura
Hell,
lock,
Heyman counts it out in ones.
puts me in a Kimura lock and breaks my arm, then yeah, the other 5,000 can cover my hospital bills. But no. Anywho, that brings up an interesting subject: finishing maneuver. Pete wanted to talk about this. We'll bring this up, and this will be before we wrap up the show. For this episode, we'll end with this finishing maneuver. The finishing maneuvers, I guess, that are the most over our favorites that we like to see.
Favorites and least favorites.
Favorites and least favorites. Okay.
Yes.
I'll start off with this. So my favorites, there's a part. So anytime, that's interesting, because over time, what has happened is a finishing maneuver has just become like back in the day, Harley Race used to finish his opponents off with just a simple suplex, just whoop, and that's it. Now you're seeing like 10 or 20 of those in one match. Or the sweet chin music, the super kick.
Super kick.
Shawn Michaels finish him off with a super kick. Adam Cole does like 20 of them in one match. You know,
Ricky Steamboat at the first WrestleMania beat Matt Bourne, who we all know as Doink the Clown, with a crossbody at the first WrestleMania.
Right.
Yep.
Put that in perspective.
Jake the Snake Roberts beat people with a DDT.
Right.
It just
Exactly.
goes. Well, Hulk Hogan beat people with the leg drop. I mean,
Right.
We're going that far.
Right. Exactly.
This guy right here. This guy right
finishing
here.
maneuver.
beat
Drop to
Big-
a leg drop.
This guy right here
Now-
beat Big John Studd.
Now
in a body
it's just
slam
like
challenge.
you have to come up with this amazing thing to be a finishing maneuver. I mean, like Seth Rollins was doing the pedigree for so long, and you know we had Evan Bourne years ago do the what do you call it, the
Shooting star press.
shooting star press, airborne. You know, like it's just finishing maneuvers. Like it's just like it's getting so much more difficult to create a good finisher, because it's just like it's not as simple anymore. It's like you can just do this one thing, and then it won't get replicated. Or what happens?
It's easier to inherit it from one of your favorite wrestlers, but
Right.
it's like you have to go to the trouble of but like you want to do right by those wrestlers who made it famous. That's why so many people use the DDT. Like, think about how much stock Jake the Snake Roberts is. There's so many people who don't even know who. There's some people who don't even know who Jake the Snake Roberts is, but I would almost argue that he's one of the most famous wrestlers in history because of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This
Put that
will
in
all
perspective.
tie back to him.
Yes.
It all ties back to him.
Yeah.
Right.
One move you can tie to somebody, it's the DDT, the Jake the Snake Roberts. Period.
Right. Also, still to this day, one of the greatest promo cutters ever. Like, my God,
Pops,
Jake the
you
Snake.
listen.
Good
Yep.
Lord. He's on AEW and with Lance Archer. And
When
Lance
he
Archer's
speaks, you
beating up-
sit.
He's talking. Lance Archer's beating up people in the background. That is money. It's
All right.
I love that
I love it.
dynamic. I love it so
But
much.
anyway, I'm going to start it off. Favorite finishing maneuvers. When I first saw Undertaker lock in the Hell's Gate, and he was making people make blood come out of their mouths. That was awesome. And that was a part of my childhood. So the part of me, like, I love that as a finishing maneuver. I love it anytime I see either the replays of Bret Hart locking in the sharpshooter or Ric Flair locking in the figure four. It's just like the submission maneuvers are like, for me, it. But like if I had to pick like one submission maneuver one finishing maneuver, God, that's difficult, because like there's so many things that like really like just like encapsulate like ending the opponent and like just like ending the match. Like you see that and everybody's like, oh my God, he's gonna win, and then they kick out and you're like, oh, what? Like, you know, so like that's like so hard, and just because everybody has a different, finishing maneuver. But I'm gonna go with this. The Tombstone pile driver. Anytime I would see that, it's like that was it. And then as I've gotten older, I've seen like the matches, the false finishes, and the WrestleMania moments when anybody kicks out of that.
That started at WrestleMania 25 with a streak should have been, and I'll stand by that to this day.
Shawn Michaels should have ended the streak, Noah?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, but I'm now the worst finisher. Oh. See, that's or
at least your least favorite. Let's
Big Show's knockout punch.
really come on.
I could do that.
That's not fair.
Anybody could do that.
That's not fair.
Anybody can knock out someone.
Anybody could do that, but like, he's
That is
not.
Size of his
unfair.
fist. He's
Right,
a giant,
okay.
and he's
Of
not
course
even
he's
a
knocking it out.
boxer. Okay, I get it. Boxers knock out people in the first round. I get that, but Big Show's not even a boxer.
But this is
Right.
pro wrestling. People
Yes.
throw worked punches all the time.
Yes.
It is a
Knockout.
common move.
They named it the what did they nickname it? They gave it like an acronym.
the WMD.
Weapon
Weapon of
destruction.
mass destruction.
Right. Also, I'll put this up here on top of my favorites, because it's a tribute to the man who basically. Well, I don't think he started it. I mean, they've probably been doing it for years, but he made it most popular. The GTS, CM Punk.
Go to sleep.
Okay.
CM Punk, baby, was that go to sleep. I mean, he basically, when he was in Straight Edge Society, he had Luke Gallows put a guy on his shoulders and GTS them. I mean, like, anytime I saw that, it was just like, it's game over. And then anytime someone would kick out of it, it's just like, all right, we got a classic here. So I'll put
John
that up
Cena
there
kicked
on
out
my
with
list.
3 times that freaking Night of Champions 2012.
Right.
Yep.
Where the fuck is Punk? Anyway, let's move on let's go to Pete. Since you came up with this idea for the finishers, what say you?
Okay, so as far as the favorite goes, I've always been a big fan of moves that just like are just so instant where it's blink and you might miss it. So like if I had to choose, it'd probably be the super kick. I'm always into those. So yeah, it's probably just gonna be that. Like it was into Shawn Michaels' Sweet Chin Music, or or any variation of it. So it's like I said, like it's been so used by everybody over the years, but
Right.
it's just so I'm just so into those moves where it's like it's so instant, and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like you can't turn away.
Another fine example of not of blink and you might miss it. The RKO.
Of course.
I know come on, let's be honest about it.
And
here.
Black Mass.
Right, exactly.
Roundhouse
now-
kick to the side of the face. but
Why are you stepping all over me?
I'm sorry, buddy. Did I just steal
Now
yours?
You stole both of mine.
I'm sorry.
You
Dude.
can still have it. No one's
I'm sorry.
You can say the same thing, dude. Come on now.
I
Who
will.
says we don't share similar ideas?
I mean, true.
Yeah. If anything, that makes it better.
I'm robbing you. I've robbed you.
You've robbed
I'm
me.
sorry.
Oh. Now my
When-
least
when
favorite.
When you get to me, you'll understand.
Okay.
Now my least favorite. I've had my mind made up about this for a long time. I have no issues with the person who does this move by any means. He's very entertaining. I just think his finishing move sucks. My thing about a finishing move is that it has to convince me in my heart of hearts that the match is over, even if the match isn't over, even if there's a false finish. Never have I been convinced that the match is over, even if the match is over after I say this move. That's Scotty 2 Hotty's The Worm.
You're out of line. You're out of line.
No,
You're so
no.
out of line.
Here's the thing, man.
You're out of line.
When he's down, like, even if he's laid out, when he's hobbling, worming, doing whatever the fuck this is,
Ooh.
you're not gonna tell me that whoever's he's facing can't get up and punch him in the face. Like, and what the hell is this? Like, you telling me that that's gonna take him out? I'm sorry. It's just no.
You're out of line.
I'm done.
You're out of
I'm
line.
out of line. Okay.
You are absolutely out of line because it's
that's
for that
my
video. It's sure it's not effective, but the entertainment behind it, the whole crowd was behind it.
Of course, it's entertaining.
The announcers were behind it. They're like, "This is gas."
Of course,
Could
it's
have been
entertaining.
So much more, though.
Of course, it's entertaining, but like,
yeah, that's what
I don't see it. I don't see it as a finisher.
For 15 seconds.
I wouldn't see it as a finisher either. I'm disqualifying it from that. I think it's something that he's so. It's his.
If he's won with it, you gotta consider it a finisher.
I've seen people win with signatures. People are like, "Oh, I'll pull this out."
Like how the Rock beat Punk with the People's Elbow to win the WWE title.
Yep. Or how fucking what is it? I don't know.
Punk should have stayed champion. He should have beat The Rock.
I'm not going to go that far, but let's
that's a conversation for another day. Yes. And that goes back to Clash of Champions 2012, where how Punk was looking for respect. Just saying.
Yeah. All right, Jack.
Oh, it's me. So for my two favorites, one of them we touched on. It was the cutter, but not the cutter you're thinking of. I'm Cody Rhodes. I got him in the DDT. What's that? I'm turning him around. What's that? I'm spinning. What's that? He's falling on his face. Crossroads. I've used that move when I was a backyard wrestler. That move I grew up on. I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. And for me, I don't really see anyone kicking out of it unless it's a high-profile match where there's got to be false finishes. That's such an important factor for me for finishers. I don't want to see someone kick out over and over and over again because then it's not a finisher. It's just something you do. The other one, I'm a sucker for a good pile driver, but not just any pile driver, a package pile driver done by none other than Kevin Steen. Him dropping Maria Kanellis on her head.
Yeah.
At Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Him just disrespecting people with that package pile driver. No more. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it, and it will remain one of my favorite finishers. My least favorite, we talked about the Big Show knockout punch. Let's be real. If you have to restrict to one part of wrestling, which is, the worked punches, then you're just really limiting a wrestler. Now with Big Show, you can get away with that because he's 7 foot tall. He's 441 pounds. He's got a big hand. But come on, it's just a punch. He has an amazing choke slam. Why aren't we using that? And my second least favorite is the John Cena attitude adjustment.
There it is.
Because
wait, that's your vote for the worst?
Yes. That and
I knew he was gonna, I figured I knew he was going to say that because as soon as I saw how he reacted to the work punch, I mean, well, how are you going to react to somebody that just turned over and just, Well,
it's not even that. Who hasn't kicked out of that? I'm pretty sure Heath Slater might have kicked out of that at one point. Who hasn't?
No.
For me, for a finisher is supposed to finish someone.
Here's the thing.
So if we're going to do that and we're going to have him kick out at too,
my God.
then it's not a finisher anymore.
John Cena has done that move and then basically rolled around the guy, picked him back up, and done it again.
That's
so basically,
a variation of it. I'm talking about the base attitude adjustment. If he were to pick me up and throw me down, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm up at 1." What the fuck was that?
To be fair, they're up at 2, but I get what he's saying. You're right. No, like he does that with AJ Styles. I know that.
He did that with AJ Styles when he goes to the second turnbuckle. And then he does it. That's cool.
Variation.
That's a different variation. It's not the same move. He's just adding on to it. And it's lazy.
Right.
I'm tired of seeing people kick out of this fake fucking move.
Well, John Cena is nowhere to be found in WWE currently, so you have nothing to worry about. He comes back for the once-in-a-lifetime match that you see in 2 WrestleManias in a row against Roman Reigns. Imagine that atrocity.
Roman.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying he pulls a Rock and he basically does I'm going to face you one-on-one at WrestleMania in a year from now. And then do a year-long storyline with Roman Reigns.
And then not even do the year-long storyline until the
Royal Rumble hits. That would be bad. Noah, what say you?
Okay, so I think about finishers. You got to think about impact. You got to think about memorability. You got to think about winning ratio. It's no-brainer for me because nobody kicked out of it, but a couple people, including Chris Jericho, grabbed a rope to break it. Kenny Omega's one-winged angel that carry over into the package type powerbomb takedown. Nobody's kicked out of that finisher yet. It is always an ace in the hole. The setup takes a moment, but once he hits it, it's over if you're nowhere near the ropes. And as far as least favorite, I think about people, y'all had a lot of good points, but I think about also the stint that I had to deal with live during freaking 2017. It's Jinder Mahal's Colossus.
Oh God!
Really?
Okay.
So
I cannot carry Jinder Mahal's Colossus as an emphatic finisher. I mean, literally, all he does, he grabs the opponent down and slams them. You might as well call that a Uranagi or a modified type rock bottom. And at one point, Randy Orton saved Jinder Mahal because literally, as Jinder Mahal was coming down, he was going to go plant first on the freaking championship. Come on, Colossus, give me a break.
Right. Right. Speaking of Jinder Mahal, I hate to change topics so quickly, but I literally saw something that somebody said that they thought Jinder Mahal's WWE title run was better than John Moxley's World Championship reign in AEW, which is complete bullshit.
Based on what? Based on what?
I'm like, are you
name? Oh, I get it. He works for WWE. This guy works in AEW. AEW is not as big as WWE. Jinder Mahal is clearly the better champion.
I get the heel. I get the heel factor, but like, what are you wasting on that on?
Do you guys? You probably know what I'm talking about. This was way back in the day this was back when it was TNA and not Impact. But AJ Styles had a promo in the ring with RVD and basically said, "You think you're qualified for the world title? Are you high right now?"
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying. That literally comment. Absolutely.
Yep. I was like, "So, what are you?" I was like, "Wrong." No, what I said was, have you guys seen? It's the movie with Adam Sandler. I think it might be it's the one where he's on a game show and he basically says, the guy's like, "What you just said is one of the most idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points."
I remember the movie top, but I know exactly what you're talking
about. Happy Gilmore. Is it Happy? No, it's not Happy Gilmore.
No, Happy Gilmore was the golf one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Today, Junior. It's that one.
Billy Madison.
Anywho.
Yeah. Definitely Billy Madison.
What?
I've been feeling in the ear. Such a good movie.
Anywho. All right,
I do have some news.
All right, go ahead.
Before we wrap up. This is from the other day, and I feel like we should talk about it real quick. It's from Ringside News.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So, and I quote,
Anonymous Raw GM.
Hey man, can I have your attention, please?
Fuck that.
I have received an email from the Anonymous.
I hated that whole thing. The Anonymous Raw GM is still blocked on my Twitter page. Fuck that bullshit. That was so dumb.
No, that's Hornswoggle.
Right, it was.
You stop bullying him.
I have to at least, give the people who put these things out there.
Okay. All right,
regardless
sorry.
of whether or not they're credible.
Shit was garbage. Anyway, continue.
Whether or not they're credible, every rumor is a rumor until they're proven true, regardless of how credible each source is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So, and I quote, "The WWE draft is underway, and some fans were expecting that they would use the opportunity to make a huge debut. That didn't happen on Friday Night SmackDown. It wouldn't be a great idea to put down money on Tessa Blanchard showing up on Raw next week either. Ringside News has learned that despite preliminary reports that WWE sent out free feelers to gauge Tessa Blanchard's interest, those talks haven't gotten very far yet. A tenured member of the creative team told us that Vince knows of Tessa, but not much about her. She's not on Vince's radar. That's not to say the situation can't change if someone sits Vince McMahon down and shows him much footage. Vince McMahon famously, I want everyone to hear that word, famously, doesn't watch any pro wrestling. He doesn't produce. We addressed the previous erroneous rumor that people were chewing McMahon's ear off about Blanchard. Vince McMahon is scarce backstage and not open to have any such chats. The same is true now as it was before regarding Tessa Blanchard in WWE. Paul Levesque has open communication with Tessa Blanchard. I mean, that's pretty much it. So basically, not much has changed regarding his her status. So essentially, unless with exception to a few people, like if Vince wants someone, he's gonna take the time to go at him. And when it comes to Vince McMahon, stubbornness. When it comes to Vince McMahon, stubbornness is stubbornness.
Look, people had to remind Vince McMahon that Bianca Belair has the potential to be a freaking women's champion. That's why we're finally seeing promos for her.
Noah.
Promos, not matches, by the way.
Who has the potential to be a world champion on his current roster? Our favorite guy who has never held a world title yet. Who is it?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Let me think. If the name's on to my tongue, he just lost the tag title. Oh yeah, freaking Cesaro!
Right, exactly. How come they haven't capitalized on this son of a bitch yet?
He's been European, around that's why.
He's been in.
What? He's European.
That is European.
It's because he's European. Vince hates Europeans.
Here's the thing about that.
Facts.
It doesn't.
Andre the Giant was a European.
He didn't see. He was able to keep him quiet.
Well, Vince wasn't in charge back then. It was his daddy.
If Vince,
that was the difference.
Yep.
If Vince wants something, he's going to get it.
Yep.
And here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's his kids. It doesn't matter if it's his kids-in-law. Like, it comes down to Vince's opinion, and stubbornness is stubbornness. Like, it doesn't matter who's putting these opinions. Like, guess who put over the Ricochet on Twitter? Ricochet. Guess who put him over on Twitter?
Ooh.
The Rock. The Rock. You would think all of these legends who look up to who Vince looks up to and who look up to Vince the same way the Undertaker does. You would think all these guys that their opinion holds more weight in the eyes of Vince McMahon.
Nope.
No.
Not the case, it looks like.
No.
It's Vince or nothing. Period.
Yeah. Like, so we all say, hey, that the Undertaker could go up and be like, hey, you should look at this guy. Undertaker's not. Like, Vince isn't going to do that.
No,
right.
He won't.
If Vince wants somebody, he's going to go out and get them.
Yep.
It's going to be the exact same case with Tessa Blanchard. And like he's not high on Tessa Blanchard. Has he never heard of the Four Horsemen?
I don't know. So the whole thing with that is, I guess, I don't know. To me, it's just like I think Vince is in his own little bubble and he's in his own little realm of.
He's been in that for like 20 years, probably.
Right, exactly. My only thing though is, he basically when he heard that Chris Jericho signed his AEW contract, his first message to him was, "Can you get out of it?" I mean, like he basically was. I mean, he was relevant. I mean, he knew who. Obviously, they've been in business together for years. And what's funny, what I find ironic about that is Jericho goes on record and tells a story that Vince thought the business was going to go down the drain by putting both titles, both the WCW World Championship at the time, it was the WCW World title, and the WWF Championship on him at the same time, was flushing the business down the toilet. Fast forward to now, and he text messages Chris Jericho, "Can you get out of your AEW contract?" Oh, so now you realize that Chris Jericho is a living legend. Oh, now you realize how big of a star he is. Oh, now you realize this.
Did you not see how many people said thank you to Chris Jericho, wrestling, non-wrestler wise? There was somebody from NJPW who said he wants to challenge Chris Jericho in 2 more matches.
The point is Chris Jericho doesn't need Vince McMahon, hence why he went to AEW. Period. I mean, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, John Moxley, Brody Lee, they all don't need Vince McMahon. Even though they did at one point, they don't need him anymore. On AEW. Miro.
Matt Cardona.
Him too. Matt Cardona. Him too. Deonna Purrazzo, even though he's on Impact.
Vince needs Matt Cardona's pool more than Matt Cardona needs Vince McMahon.
There you go.
Anyway, boys. Pete, you got another one?
Here's the thing. It's just like, why the hell would you say, hey, why is our business in the toilet? We're putting the belt on Jericho. You made that call.
Right.
Like, everything comes down to you. You have the ability to change this. You have guys like Triple H. You have guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and yet you're putting the belt on Jericho. And I'm not saying that's a bad move by any means, but it's like, You don't shit on it if you have the ability to change it.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays he doesn't know what he wants anymore because he'll change the show as soon as it's on.
No, but here's the thing. No. I mean, he'll do whatever he wants, and he thinks that's what's best.
Best for business.
Best for yeah. But here's the thing. I think we can all agree. WWE needs a new set of eyes, and by that I mean Triple H. I think Triple H has done right by NXT thus far, and if Triple H was running things on the main roster, i.e. Raw and SmackDown, I think things would be looking a lot different because he was there during the Attitude Era, and I think Triple H is in touch. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
there's a reason why we like NXT and NXT UK more than
Raw and SmackDown
combined.
Right.
And by the way, how dare you
better.
not talk about the Heritage Cup and Walter and Kaylee Ray?
So I think we can all agree that
Dragunov.
touch.
Yep.
Yeah. All righty, boys. We're gonna call it for that episode. If you got a glass, raise it. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a new toast for you. If pro wrestling was a barbecue, you can count on us to bring the sauce. That's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen.
EVH.
What?
R.I.P. EVH.
Rest in peace to Eddie Van Halen. May he be cutting guitar solos in the afterlife and in the ether. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.